They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Indeed, we will remember them. Good evening from Waikumete Cemetery, New Zealand's biggest war cemetery. In this enormous memorial, up to 10,000 war veterans lie, remembered today like the thousands of others who made the ultimate sacrifice. Today, New Zealand has 670 Defence Force personnel overseas in Afghanistan, East Timor, the Solomons, Bosnia, Kosovo, Lebanon, Egypt, Sudan, Iraq, South Korea and Antarctica. And as is so often the case, on Anzac Day, we remember the disastrous Gallipoli campaign of World War I. And we'll go to Turkey a little later. But first tonight, we look at a conflict much closer to home. During World War II, the Pacific Theatre added considerably to New Zealand's casualty list, and some died without so much as firing a shot. Vanuatu, or the New Hebrides as it was then, is a perfect example. It was there in 1944 that 2 Kiwi flyboys were lost as they prepared for war in the neighbouring Solomon Islands. Their remains have never been found, and so their families still wonder what really happened and what it's really like where they died. Michael Holland went deep into the Vanuatu jungle with Peter Munro, the nephew of one of the men, as he sought some form of closure.
Flight Sergeant Munro was a member of the crew of an aircraft which took off on a training flight on the 11th of February 1944 and was reported missing after 2:55 p.m. on that date. Flight Sergeant Munro has consequently been classified as missing.
There's another ridge up there. Oh no. Wow.
They're the dogged footsteps of a man who needs to know, who needs to touch and feel. So up there somewhere is John Munro.
That's right. He's in there.
Is that spooky?
It is spooky. It really is.
In a good way?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a time, you know, we're going to, I guess, cement some kind of conclusion, aren't we? Yeah. It's going to be great.
This is the town of Luganville on the island of Santo. During the war, it was a staging post for tens of thousands of American troops. And by all accounts, the main street fair hummed with an impressive array of bars, movie theatres, eating houses and supply stores. Yet despite the military activity and hardware, 2 young New Zealand airmen named Munro and Moore and their dauntless bomber were able to disappear without trace in jungle just a few minutes flying time from the town.
I wouldn't have believed it, you know, how thick this stuff is. And that heat is so sapping.
Peter Munro's the nephew of Flight Sergeant John Keith Munro. They never met, but Peter's making this demanding pilgrimage to fulfil the dream of his late father Roy, the missing airman's youngest brother.
And he said, it would be great to get up there. And I said, yeah, never thinking that I'd ever get there. I'm sort of choking up a little bit just thinking about it now. Yeah.
Unless evidence is found which would indicate that there is a possible chance of survival of the crew, the search will be then abandoned. On behalf of the Air Board, I once again desire to express my deepest sympathy with you in your continued anxiety.
43 years after that ominous telegram to John Munro's parents, gold prospectors chanced upon the downed Dauntless, but of the 2 crew, there was no sign. Air Force teams were to retrieve the wreckage, and from engine and instrument settings deduced that Munro and pilot Alexander Moore had bailed out before impact. As to their fate, local villagers recounting stories passed down by elders say one of the airmen was seriously injured as they parachuted through the dense jungle canopy.
Injured. One would have been actually more, obviously more injured than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One had a broken leg, he said.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And the guy with the broken leg was being assisted down the river.
Yes.
And then it got too rough, there's rapids and stuff in it.
Yes.
And that guy got left behind.
Just which of the two was left to die alone remains unclear, as does how the stronger man eventually met his death.
I guess I was thinking last night, it'd be great to find a tag.
But exactly.
But I don't see that as a possibility now, because I was thinking maybe the bush people here, you know, the indigenous people at the time, I thought they might have put stones over top of the body in a sort of a burial type of ritual, but no.
You guys know, the old fella, he didn't talk about where Ogeta tried to bury the white man, or just the Ogeta just let him sleep, look around.
Kada time mi full down I pudum long one stone.
Yeah.
One stone.
Yeah.
And me sleep long one stone no more. And me sleep now.
Okay.
Thanks, mate.
Finally, after 4.5 hours of slog, the crash site. The villagers have crafted a cross, a heartfelt gesture. But Peter's determined to uncover an inscription of the men's names, hacked into stone by the Air Force retrieval team back in 1987.
I wouldn't be doing justice if I can't have a look and see if I can find these inscriptions.
Sadly, though, the ravages of time have left the rocks bare.
I was expecting something to jump out at me, you know, and it's not doing it, but it's not to say that this isn't the, you know, the stone. Yeah, that certainly has more meaning to me now, just to see him here. Such a waste. And, he reminds me so much of my dad. If Dad was here, he'd be pretty proud.
When you look in his eyes, what do you see? Excitement? Trepidation?
Yes, I see all of those attributes. He was like most of those other soldiers. We just wanted to go to war. We just wanted to go and serve for our country. We wanted to see the world a little bit. And so it's almost like gung-ho, you know, let's go.
He's got a fag in his hand.
He's got a fag in his hand. And, you know, he looks good. That's my Uncle John. Does he look like me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the same age as you. 21, 22.
Gentlemen.
Smiling.
You haven't found a burial site, and you haven't found a dog tag or anything like that. You've got to go. Can you turn and walk away?
I can walk away from this. That's, you know, unfortunately, you know, we couldn't have anything that we could actually cement that type of closure. But yes, I can walk away from this crash site now, and feel good about that.
He is here somewhere.
Yes, he is. Yeah, I can feel him.
And Peter Munro remembered his uncle at an Anzac service on the Loganville waterfront in Vanuatu this morning. Still to come, the men of Gallipoli who tend the graves of our fallen soldiers as if they were family.
And we see that here our New Zealanders, like brothers, or our New Zealanders have also lost their life, and that really saddens us.
Boom, 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 boom.
You never know what life will throw at you. A family trust can help all kinds of people protect their assets and their future. Call now to find out if one's right for you.
I got some bad news.
Every victim
What happened that night?
has a family.
It's a straight-A student from the burbs who went down in the hood.
Every family has its secrets.
Remember how I got that black eye? My dad would never hurt my brother.
Cold Case, tonight 8:30 TV1.
Get into Kmart for a cheeky 20% off underwear, socks and hosiery, excluding sleepwear. So move your butt for 20% off underwear, socks and hosiery for the whole family. Kmart.
Avon says hello tomorrow, the day to decide your own destiny. Put more colour in your world with Avon's new Ultra Moisture Rich Lipstick. Ravishing new colours, up to 220% instant moisture boost to bring your lips alive. Hello tomorrow, a day for your style. Another day to rise, another chance to shine. Call your Avon representative now and say hello tomorrow.
Ask your pharmacist how Buckland can help protect from bacterial complications of colds this winter.
Based on the true story of one of Scotland's greatest sports legends. Experience the triumph that thrilled a nation. The Flying Scotsman.
You'll always find amazing value when you visit Big Save Furniture. Amazing value package deals, full motion recliner suites and incredible leather deals. Plus Big Save now offers 5 eyes. Don't miss our best catalogue prices ever. Catalogue specials must end Sunday.
Time for Big Save.
The tax laws are changing. You can find out how they'll affect your investments by talking to Spices about Plan 1. Plan 1 looks at all aspects of your finances and then works out how to achieve your goals. Like how you could save up to 60% on the tax you currently pay on your managed fund investments. And it's from Spices, one of New Zealand's largest networks of financial advisors. Call now for your introductory copy, because if you want a better life, you need to plan one.
If you're pregnant or planning to be, it's natural to want a healthy baby. The right vitamins and minerals can help, and they're all available in Elevit. Only Elevit is clinically proven to reduce the risk of neural tube defects like spina bifida by 92%. It contains the iron you need, plus 800 micrograms of folic acid, as recommended by the Ministry of Health. Elevit should be taken daily at least 3 months before, during pregnancy and while breastfeeding. Elevit, only at your pharmacy.
Some people's feet produce 2 pints of sweat a day. Bacteria can feed on this sweat, resulting in smelly feet and footwear. Eliminate the bacteria and you eliminate the problem, which is why Gran's Remedy works so well. Gran's Remedy is 100% effective at treating all 5 of the bacteria and fungi known to cause smelly feet and footwear. Simply use for 7 consecutive days and enjoy up to 6 months guaranteed protection. Gran's Remedy at your pharmacy now.
See our magazine, it's available now.
This woman wasn't real.
She was evil personified.
The unknown story of history's most notorious child killer.
If you can do an act like that when you're 23 years of age, do you ever change?
Real Crime. Myra Hindley, The Prison Years, tonight, TV1.
In Turkish soil, 2,721 New Zealand soldiers are buried. Back in 1934, the first president of Turkey, Mustafa Ataturk, said our soldiers were lying in the soil of a friendly country. He told the soldiers' mothers to wipe away their tears. Their boys were Turkish sons now. 92 years on, those young men's graves in Gallipoli lie in immaculate cemeteries, tended with all the care of family by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, that was set up in 1917. The gardens are tended all seasons, a duty that lies with a team of Turks, and is a job that goes back generations in some families. Europe correspondent Melissa Stokes with the gardeners of Gallipoli.
In the beating Turkish sun, the guardians of the graves of Gallipoli work where many have fallen.
Neticede hepsi bir kardeş olduğu için biz de bunlar.
All of us get very much moved from the experience on the battlefield.
No amount of water can wash away the history of the bloody battlefields.
Biz savaş bölgesi olarak tabii ki hepimiz.
Because this area has been a battlefield, it gives you the feeling of pain. And this is because of the experiences in here. But either be it our Turkish brothers or Australian brothers, it gives you that feeling.
Ali's been tending to the Gallipoli cemeteries for 24 years. He's a man of few English words, but there's a shared sentiment of the lives cruelly cut short.
Yeah. 22 years.
Well, Australian. There are 31 cemeteries around the peninsula for this small regiment to look after. Errol Baijan's father helped build them.
38 years, my father.
Errol then took over, working for the Commonwealth Graves Commission for 36 years. His work with the Anzacs has seen him honoured in Australia. The country awarded him an Order of Merit. The 72-year-old's photo wall is a who's who of Commonwealth dignitaries. Australia's PM John Howard, Margaret Thatcher, and that back, Her Majesty the Queen, with his son, who's now in charge.
After the First War was until now, as a third generation.
You can feel the stillness at Shrapnel Valley Cemetery. Almost 700 soldiers are buried here. It's a place where the past is never far from the surface.
When we work here, obviously, we notice that that was a place where war has occurred. And we look at it and we see that here our New Zealanders, like brothers, or our New Zealanders have also lost their life, and that really saddens us.
92 years ago, the trenches were filled with blood. Now often, it's the tears of relatives.
It is like the same when we go to a cemetery, how we feel. When they come here, when we see them emotionally moved, we experience the same.
Meeting with families has become part of a gardener's life.
And she wanted to say something, but she couldn't express it, and then she broke into tears, looking at, what work we do for once upon a time, whose grandfathers has fought against each other. She was very pleased. She said, I came, I saw, and I'm very happy. But he said, actually, I was more moved than she was to her reaction.
What is it like to tend to the graves of the soldiers sent to attack your country? They were your enemy.
From outsider's point of view, they might see it like that, but I don't see it that way.
They all agree it's not something they think about. And as Anzac Day dawns, the gardens will be looking their best in the spring sunshine. The gardeners say they don't know much about the men that are buried here, but they understand the importance of the pilgrimage to the cove.
They're very impressed, they very enjoyed, as many times, and we get the thanks about the work because they like.
Turkey's former leader Mustafa Ataturk once said, your sons are now our sons. His people agree.
The work never finishes here because flowers are like children. You have to look after them all the time.
And nurture the boys who'll never grow old.
Well, here at Auckland's Waikumete Cemetery, around 10,000 war graves are also well tended. And the two Anzac services here today at 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. were well attended to. The Dawn Parade began here 7 years ago after a patriotic push from none other than an Englishman. He wanted a service to remember fallen Anzacs as well as his own countrymen. Now, with me is that Englishman, Len Johnson, a Korean veteran and president of the 1,200-strong Gleneden RSA. Len, today you were particularly happy about today, aren't you?
Exceptionally happy. It was the best turnout, approximately 3,000 people. Beautiful day, no rain for a change.
Sorry, no rain?
No rain for a change, Mark. And that was a bonus.
See, this is 7 years ago you decided you wanted to do this.
Yeah.
We're used to seeing the ceremonies, we're used to seeing the parades, but for ex-servicemen like yourselves, a lot of time the day is spent down at the RSA.
Yeah.
Is it maudlin? I mean, are you?
No, anything but. It's a pleasure to go there. I got up this morning at 3:30, get out the Raza for about 4:45. Everybody was in there working. Women's section did a marvellous job as usual. And we have a great relationship with our women's section, and we're there as usual with tea, coffee, biscuits, marvellous.
But you're celebrating your mates who have gone as opposed to sitting there depressed, I suppose.
Well, you're really celebrating you're not gone. You're lucky you got through, but on your mind all the time is your mates that you left behind. And the best way you can remember them is to have a drink with other veterans and just think of them, you know.
You're doing that with your old mates. The other thing we see more and more at these services is the number of young people turning up.
The young people this morning, Mark, was tremendous. A taxi driver that picked me up said when he passed here this morning at 5 o'clock, there was hundreds of people already in here. And it was great to see young kids, 2 and 3 years old, up and running and enjoying it, you know. It was great.
Does something in here for you?
Yes, it hits you.
Listen, well done, Len. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations, if it is to be congratulated on another great Anzac Day here at Waikumete.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Up next, they'd won the war, they could go, but had to leave their horses behind.
We gave up our horses and it broke our hearts. I had a glorious horse, most beautiful horse I've ever ridden. And of course they took it away from me. I was heartbroken.
Lest we forget our four-legged friends, that's after the break.
Tonight, the wonderful effort a young guy went to for his dying mate and how an Aussie outfit let him down. The restaurant that insists everyone buys $50 worth of food and a huge reaction to our water bottle story. Fair go next on One.
This show home is very understated from the street, but when you come through the front door, you're immediately struck by the space and the light and the flow out to the decks and the view.
There are a lot of understated qualities to this home, like the durability and toughness of the cladding. Linear weatherboards.
Contemporary style and durability were very important to us, and they used linear weatherboard as opposed to, say, brick, mainly for the contemporary style.
For this environment, I don't think we could have used brick, so the only solution was linear weatherboard.
Another understated quality. Under these tiles, Villeboard lining, a durable peace of mind lining for wet areas.
The barbecue area is a fantastic feature. The Hardy Groove works in really well with the Louvertech.
Whether you're making a statement or building a hideaway, visit our website for more inspirational ideas from David Reed Homes and James Hardy Building Products.
It's a real family home that anyone, any Kiwi, would be really proud to live in.
Shoes, all women's boots. Buy one pair, get the second pair half price. Mix and match any of the latest styles in our huge range of women's winter boots. All women's boots. Buy one pair, get the second pair half price.
Just a reminder, the DVS home ventilation system is just what you need to solve your condensation problem. Remember, easy to install, easy to use, easy finance. It's so easy with DVS.
DVS. You don't have to clean it. You don't have to park it. You don't have to fill it up. And you don't have to insure it. Metro. Nothing could be simpler.
Wow, there's a lot to choose from at Target Furniture. And it's all the latest design. Great looks, great prices. Hit the Target.
It's the final days for your current New World coupon book, with extra savings on great products like these. Don't miss out.
Old life.
Why on earth do they want to leave it all behind?
New life.
We're standing in kind of like the
kitchen.
Turning dreams into reality.
I never imagined it would be half as tough. It's all part of the learning curve.
Life's too short, you've got to do it.
Build a new life in the country. Saturday, TV1.
Today, of course, we remember the thousands of Kiwi soldiers who gave their lives for our country. But what about the horses? That's right, horses. New Zealand's equine contribution to the war effort in World War I. 10,000 horses were sent from New Zealand. 10,238 to be exact, a staggering statistic made even more so by the fact that only one returned. Just what happened to the others has always intrigued Paul Sanderson, and now the amateur filmmaker says he has some answers. Jendi Harper takes a look.
Time after time.
They came down from the farms, out of the cities and off the racetracks. 10,000 horses sent from these shores to join the fight on foreign sand.
If they had a horse, they joined the mounted rifles. As simple as that. If they didn't, they joined the infantry.
So it was their horse that they took to war, in most cases?
In many cases, yes, it was. And with some soldiers, they stayed with that horse right throughout the duration of the war.
It was the same in Australia. 160,000 horses were dispatched there. Paul Sanderson believes many New Zealanders today are unaware that so many horses were sent to war, even that Kiwi horses were sent at all.
We lost 4 horses on the trip. The funny thing, if a horse is ever sick, it'll die. Well, these horses were, funny thing, they were seasick. They vomited and they died.
What did they do with those ones that died? I mean, was it just overboard?
Yeah, they hoisted them up and just dumped them overboard.
Paul Sanderson is a lover of horses and an amateur filmmaker, 2 passions combined to produce All the King's Horses. He says it is long overdue recognition of the role of the horse in World War I.
They have a terrible time, you know. Some of the journeys they made were nearly 60 miles. That's a long way, and you fight in between.
It was the bravest, most awe-inspiring sight I've ever witnessed. As it thundered past, my hair stood on end. The boys were wild-eyed and yelling their heads off.
It used to put fear into the locals. You know, they were in awe. You know, I mean, here we have had the we had the largest cavalry in the history of man.
By war's end, a staggering 1 million horses and mules are listed in service with British and Commonwealth forces.
But only a handful of dispatch horses served at Gallipoli. Anzac Cove was no place for ponies. Their riders came alone. Reunited, man and horse fought off challenges at the Suez Canal, battled in the winter rains and mud of Palestine, and finally marched triumphant through Damascus.
They had been many times short of food, leg weary and shin sore. They had not decently rested themselves for weeks. And what is much worse to a horse, they had not had a decent roll. Now they rolled and kept on rolling until it seemed they would never cease, and the stable pickets on duty reported, "Every horse is down."
With the hostilities over, the British Army is faced with a new problem. What to do with all the horses?
The New Zealand and Australian soldiers were told there were cost and quarantine issues. The news must have been devastating. They'd won the war, they could go, but had to leave their horses behind.
We gave up our horses and it broke our hearts. I had a glorious horse, most beautiful horse I've ever ridden. And of course they took it away from me. I was heartbroken.
Some of them were sold on to the Indian cavalry. Some of them were sold to French butchers for food. There were debts to be paid, but there were the odd Australian and New Zealand horse made its way onto the streets of Cairo and became almost slave horses in a way. Of course, Australian and New Zealand soldiers were very upset about this because they had seen the way they had treated the horses. They didn't want to see their beloved horse end up in a stone quarry or become a slave horse.
Some Anzac troopers took their trusty mounts out into the fields and shot them.
Which is what I probably would have done.
To save them from a worse fate?
Yeah, to save them from a worse fate. I think it would have been the hardest decision that you could have made. It would have been terrible.
We rode through shot and shell.
I certainly think they should have brought some of them home. And I'm quite sure if they had said to the soldier, you know, you can bring your horse home if you pay for it yourself, I'm sure quite a few would have made it home.
Time after time, they brought us us safely through by their swift sure hooves and their brave hearts.
As I said earlier, just one horse out of 10,000 returned to New Zealand, a mare named Bess who belonged to Captain Powles. After the war, he took Bess hunting in England, and then she retired to New Zealand where she died in 1924. As we leave Waikumete Cemetery, we want to remind you of war's human cost to this nation since 1899. 230 men died in the Boer War, 18,000 were killed during World War I, another 11,000 in the Second World War, 43 in Korea, another 20 in Malaya, and 40 in Vietnam. Since we began peacekeeping operations in 1990, 6 others have been killed. That's a total of 30,360 killed, many thousands of others injured, and families ripped apart. That's why we have this, that's why we recognise Anzac Day. Lest we forget, from Waikumete Cemetery, that's New Zealand Close Up.